Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how you doing?
I thought it was your daughter's birthday.
No, that was Dana.
Oh, that's Dana's. Okay.
Yeah, mine's tomorrow.
You or your daughter?
No, me.
So did you get your shot?
No, but interesting news. I get contacted by John Lazar, and he said that the VA is having a pop-up clinic at Breed Junior High School on Saturday.
Perfect.
Does your husband belong to the VA?
He doesn't, but they let him come with me as my caretaker.
Okay.
He's just a month or two younger. He was, 74, but he came as my caretaker, so he got his too.
Oh, excellent, excellent. No, I'm still a baby, so I I don't qualify. I'm 72 tomorrow.
Oh, you're only 72.
Yeah, like I'm a babe in the woods.
Oh, see, I'll be 75 in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, my wife's 74 in just a couple of weeks. So
anyway, and because I volunteered at Lynn Community Health, that gave me extra points. And so they were very happy to see me. I wore my tag and they said, oh, thank you. Anyway, that operation over there it's excellent.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
so well organized, so good. And it was really cute. I mean, they're just, you're in and out in an hour, even though there was a bit of a line, not much, but everything just moved along beautifully. And then I got given my shot by, and he had written his name, no doctor, just George. And he did a beautiful job. I said, wow. He said, yeah. He said, I'm a dentist. He said, I give tons of shots. And then it was
Yeah,
so
I can
sweet.
imagine.
Then he's so sweet. He said to me, I cannot tell you how long I've been waiting to do this. I am so happy to be doing this.
I think everybody is.
He was thrilled. I mean, he was just like, I said, thank you, thank you. He said, no, no, thank you for being here. This is, oh, I gotta get I'm taking notes tonight, so I have to get my act together here.
I was just told I have to take my 7 o'clock pills.
Oh, you
So-
do that, okay. I'll get my note paper.
And I am still finishing dinner, so I'm turning off my video until I'm done. So, I guess I am Antonio Barletta right now, and Tony is Tony.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Better put on your
um,
camera.
No, when I'm finished with dinner, I will turn on my camera.
I'm teasing you.
Good evening, Judy.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. And yourself?
Well, thank you.
Good.
do you know how to rename yourself or how to mute people? How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable with using Zoom?
I think so. Basically, I click on the little ellipse that shows up when I hover over their name, and I can do all sorts of things, right?
Yep.
Stop, chat, rename, pin, spotlight, make host. Okay, I'm good.
It seemed like there was some
Hi,
feed,
John.
some sound coming in from Kathleen Martin too, if you want to mute.
We will mute Kathleen then. All right, and good evening to Chief Dwyer as well.
Yeah, hey, Chief.
How are you? Good evening.
And Tony, it was awesome. I got my shot. Just, that is so great over there. You have guys, you've done a wonderful job.
And Lynn, you went
Yeah.
you went over to, oh, nice.
Yeah, she
Good.
called me back and I was able to get a late, a Friday afternoon appointment, and my husband came as my caretaker. He's just a month under 75 anyway. We're both like, but, and also I had my Lynn Community Health Volunteer tag. So that gave me extra points.
Yeah,
It's beautifully organized. Just really,
yeah.
Albert,
it's pretty-
congratulations on
pretty
getting your
impressive.
shot.
yes.
Yes, I'm jealous.
Soon, I hope, for everybody
Hello,
else.
Tony.
Agreed.
Good evening. Can you hear, can everyone hear
You
me?
can, yes. I
Yes.
can.
Wonderful.
All right, well, let's see. It is it 7? It's after 7. It's a couple
Yeah.
minutes after 7.
What
This
time
is
is it
the
exactly? I have to write it down.
Oh,
7:02.
7:02.
7:02, almost 7:03. This is the February 16th meeting of the Finance and Advisory Committee. We have a quorum, so present from the Finance and Advisory Committee are Barbara Beatty, Bob Vanderslice, masquerading as Antonio Barletta, Tony Barletta himself, Judy Zahora, Allison. What is your title? You're-
Town accountant and finance director.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
Jeff Lewis is here, John Fulgham is here, DeWitt Brown is here. And we are joined by Chief Dwyer, Chief of Police, and Tony Pientazos. I'm sorry, Tony, you must
You
get
gotta
this all
say
the
it with a
time.
little, oomph, a parentasi.
Parentazzi, how about that? Who is the
Bene, molto bene.
Monte Bene, sehr gut. And a number of members of the public. So my inclination is to ask Chief Dwyer to go first, because I think he will take, the police department will take less time than the school department, if that's okay.
Sure, I'm ready to go.
Um,
It-
And I guess what we did before is, can you just talk through the highlights of the budget? What are the big things in there? What is different than in prior years? And I don't believe there are any articles related to the police department, if memory serves.
There is.
There
There's
is?
one. Yeah, there's one.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the
Okay.
radios. There are the radios, right?
The radio system, correct, which was still, I'll get into it a little bit. So if you want to start, we can start with the capital. We can talk about the radio system.
Okay.
So it's been an issue with the police department. As you know, that the radio communication is our lifeline. Without that, we're in trouble. And over the last few years, I've noticed a decline in the system, the radio system, with the officers in certain areas of town trying to communicate back to the police department. So I've been over, well, last year, this was supposed to go on the, obviously, we were supposed to, because of COVID, never got through town meeting. So we kind of patched it up to get us through. However, we're still having problems with the radio communication in town, and it's failing. And officers in certain places, to include myself, when calls have been on over the last couple of years, we cannot communicate from, we'll say, for the Bass Point area clearly and concisely. We can't communicate back to the PD with information that, to dispatch, and dispatch can't communicate to us, especially on the portables. The cruisers are a little better. However, the portables are worse. So I had a couple of companies come in, and we did some work on the system. We were testing the equipment we have, and his bottom line is the technology is old, and it's non-serviceable, and it's time to be replaced. We're currently still working with one company, which Tony and I are meeting with, I believe, February 23rd, to go over the fine points of the quote, and to make sure that, because obviously there's a lot to this system. It's just not buying a couple of portables and a portable radio for the officers. It's large. It's a larger picture than that. So we have repeaters in back of the station. We only have one repeater. And for the longest time, that we managed with that. But now, because of, they say, growth and other things, and just that the equipment is breaking down, the technology is poor, we need to grow the system a little bit. And so that means we have to put antennas over in Bass Point. We'll have to put in some type of antenna or receiver up in the East Point area. And even so far as the fire department, they also have a receiver over at Lynn Dispatch over at Wayne Alarm on that tower, which we can actually tap into, that will actually bring us where we need to be as far as communication, so the officers can safely communicate with dispatch and vice versa. So that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of the system. There's a lot more. It's a lot more complicated than that. However, I'm not a radio expert. I have an idea how they work. And we're working with a company that's been very good and working closely with me. So in the beginning of this, I was just trying to find out what we could do to repair it, to get us by. And I think at this point, that's not going to happen. So it's going to be just pretty much a complete overhaul of the radio system.
Chief,
So-
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Can I ask? So it's not the equipment so much, although the equipment's old and we understand that. It's no matter what you do, you still have to do these things so that you have radio transmission in those areas, right? So it's not
Well,
a
it is-
system as much as it, because what have you been doing up till now?
Well, we're struggling with it. We're struggling.
But you've
Oh,
had it for a long time. How you been working it?
Well, we've had the system for a long time. So over the last 2 years, the system started to break down. And I've had radio companies come in and make certain adjustments to try to get us by. So it's the equipment. The equipment and the power of the equipment is failing. So we need to make some changes with the equipment in order to have proper communication back to dispatch.
So I think I understand. I mean, I understand the equipment's old and it's failing. I get
Right,
that.
right.
So even with new equipment, we still have to do the upgrades to the various areas. You still have to tap into the
Correct.
uh, different towers, whatever that is. So
Correct.
no matter what you do, you still have to do that.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
All right.
You're right
So
on that.
That's an additional cost?
No, it's all part of this. It's all part of this one quote. So for example, I'll use, we're gonna run over to, well, Johnson School is gonna be a location. That will get us through Bass Point. Another location is gonna be up in East Point. And they talked about putting something maybe at the town hall. So again, we're gonna meet with the company again next Wednesday, or Tuesday or Wednesday with Tony and I, so he can really lay this whole project out so we can really get a better grasp on it and understand the whole process. But that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it right there.
So
Right.
you're not
Go
exactly
ahead, Judy.
certain. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
No, go. I didn't realize you were.
Yeah, just one more question then. Then without having a full idea of having done that work, you're not really quite certain what the cost is going to be.
Well, right now, we're looking around 200,000 right now to upgrade that system. So that's what we're looking at, around $200,000. And that includes new portables for the offices. That includes radios for the reserve offices, a new receiver behind the police station. And, you know, the other equipment we need up at Town Hall, we'll say, and over at Johnson School. So, but I'm going to have a clearer picture next week. We've had a couple of meetings scheduled, but however, for different reasons, we've had to cancel. One being on my part, and you know, obviously because of the COVID, everything's been a struggle. So we do have a definite meeting next week to finalize a lot of these details and get a clearer picture of how we're going to approach this.
But it was something that was going to be on the warrant last year. So what were you using for that for a quote?
Well, same thing, but things have come up. I got another company to come in and take a better look at this. And I feel comfortable with this company than the other one. And I'm not going to get into the names of the company. This company did a more in-depth, they researched it and spent a lot of time on trying to figure out what our issues are and how to correct them.
I was just going to mention that, you know, Chief did a good job of going through the process. And, you know, sometimes when a company comes into a small town like Nahant and they see, you know, the equipment that we're working on, it's easiest for them to just build brand new and give you the, you know, the Cadillac version replacement. And Chief Dwyer, you know, really worked through that. The first company we talked with on, you know, running tests, you know, bring in a temporary repeater and see how that impacted the signal, then change the antenna, see how that impacted the signal, and kind of replace the pieces here and there. And that whittled it down. And I think in the warrant or in the borrowing article, we have it around 170. Then even took it another step further and took that, you know, that whole analysis from that company and brought it to a second party to double check that. And they even further, you know, identified to us some areas that we could save some money and get some value. Because obviously, you know, none of us are fully in tune with, you know, how the system exactly works. But, you know, the police department's done a good job of repairing the existing system over the years. But I think in that first meeting I sat with the first company, you know, they were talking about certain parts of the system you can't even get really replacement parts for anymore.
So is this a replacement or an upgrade?
Replacement.
More of a replacement.
Okay.
There are some parts of the system we may be able to hold on to, but for the most part, it's a replacement.
Okay.
It's a replacement that's going to, the win is that you replace it, you get an upgrade because of it.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. How long have you had that system, Chief?
I want to say it's at least 25 years old. Our
Oh.
portables are at least
All
15.
right.
It's been around a while. I think when Chief Waters, in 2000, when Chief Waters took over, he did some work. He did some work on the system. And so it's quite old. I sent the repeater out. I put in a replacement repeater. We borrowed one from the radio company, and I sent it out to this company to have it checked out. And the bottom line is the technology and the equipment is old. It's beyond its time. And like I said, I've been doing everything I can over the last couple of years to try to fight through this, so we didn't have to go this route. But I really don't have any option.
All right, so just because it says the Marconi Wireless Company on the side,
Yeah,
Right, that's what I was thinking. The technology's changed 7 times in
Oh,
the last 25
yeah.
years.
exactly. So
but, okay, so I'll throw 3 questions at you and field them in whatever order
sure.
you want. One, what's the expected lifespan of the new system? 2, does this somehow connect with the fire department? And if not, would it not be desirable to have it connect with the fire department?
Okay, so let me answer the fire department question. We can connect with the fire department currently with the system we have. So Nahant Fire can jump on our frequency and speak with us. We can jump on their frequency, but it goes through Lynn Fire Alarm. So their system, the fire department system works through, they have different language than us is the best I can describe it. So yes, can we communicate with them? The bottom line is yes, if we need to get a hold of them, but we don't communicate with the fire department as a rule like that. In an extreme emergency, yes, we can jump on their frequency, but for the most part, everything goes through fire alarm. And we can do that directly from the police station or a cruiser.
Okay.
Yeah.
Life
far as
go ahead.
life expectancy, I only can base it off. That's a question I can ask next week when we meet with the company in reference to, trying to finalize all the details. Only thing I can base it off is, with technology, I'm hoping for the same amount of years that we've gotten out of this one, 25 years, 25 to 30 years. I mean, let's face it, during that time, are we going to need to replace a portable or a radio on one of the cruises? I'm sure. But we're hoping for the heavy duty part of the infrastructure. I'm hoping for 25 years.
And one small point, Chief, you have that ability to communicate with fire now. That doesn't go away when the new system comes in.
No.
Okay.
We still have the ability communicate with them, and the new system will still have the ability to communicate with them.
There are no economies of scale in doing both police and fire together.
No,
Somehow?
fire's already been done. I think if we-
Fire's hooked in with Lynn.
Yeah.
It's a 3-way with Lynn, Swampscott, and Nahant. So we're dispatched. Our calls are dispatched from Lynn.
So we'd take the 911 call for, we'll say a working fire. We'll take the call at the PD. All the calls come to us, 911. Sometimes the fire department will receive a call in their business line, but all the emergencies come through us, 911. We take the call, then we automatically take that call and dispatch it over to the fire alarm, which we have a contract with Lynn Fire Alarm. We've had it for quite a few years, and it works. It was a good idea that they did it this way because of mutual aid and for a lot of reasons. And just a simple fact, we got to work in fire. And I'm not an expert on this, but just from experience of being in the PD, if we have a working fire, we send it over to Lynn. Lynn takes it from there. So Lynn takes it from there, dispatches Nahant Fire. And then they're already dispatching an engine from Lynn or a ladder from Lynn, either to cover the Nahant station or go to the working fire. So we're out of that equation. Instead of picking up phones, it's all done like, boom, we get the call, it's a quick button, call over to Lynn, tell them what we have, they take it from there, dispatch our fire department along with mutual aid assets if we need them. So.
And are we running our own 911 call center?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep, we're not regionalized, we have our own. And I wouldn't want to change it.
And either Chief or Tony, does this go out for bid?
It's, this is on the mass bid list,
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's a state contract.
state contract.
Okay, got it. Anyone else?
No, thank you.
As soon as we get some more detail, Tony can update you.
Do you want to go through your operating budget?
Sure. I can start with salaries. You want to start with salaries? I don't know if you want to go line by line or if you have any questions.
Just highlight the major changes.
Okay, well, if you currently look at the current budget we have, there really aren't, a lot of major changes in here. As you can see, the administrative versus what I put in, there's been some significantly reductions from what I put in, but there's some of it was just salary issues that, had to do with, I tried to get a 12th officer and Tony and I discussed that. We're going to move away from that for now, but, and I continue to bring this up every year with about the 12th officer, how important it is to have 2 officers on the road, 365 days a year. And at times that doesn't happen. And we've got roughly 56 hours a week of unfunded, I call it liability, where there's only 1 officer on the street, 1 inside. So we do the best we can to cover it in the summertime. In the wintertime, we back down. We go back down to minimum mannings. And but I've been trying to get the 12th officer for quite a few years. And yes, it is an expense. And I put it I put it in my budget again this year. And Tony and I discussed it a bit. And it's something we both feel that we want to work towards, but I think we're going to postpone it for now and still get into some additional discussion with it. So on the salary lines, you'll see most of the increases are here they're all contractual. So for example, if you take the regular full-time employees, that's contractual. All those increases you see right down the line are either 3% because of the increase they got, or 4.5% in the overtime line items, just to cover the costs of filling vacation, personal time, sick time, court time, the shift differentials, the education incentive, things like that. So, as far as the salaries go, like I said, it's just all you're seeing in the increases are just simple to do with the pay increases, so we can get through the end of the year. Does anybody have any question on any one of the line items?
I guess I just have a more general question about your point about those 56 hours that are, kind of your whole now during the week. So currently you're forced to operate with 1 officer in a car and 1 officer at the base, right?
Correct.
Does any of the overtime that's built into the current budget structure allow you to kind of fill that occasionally or always or just some of the time?
Yeah, it's just some of the time, not always. So
okay.
So we'll go May. Things start picking up in April and May. I base it all on weather. Sometimes, obviously in the summer times, I need to load those shifts. I very rarely will run with 1 officer between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. So let me give you an idea on the shift so you understand how we operate. So our shifts run 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's 1 shift. The next shift is 4 p.m. to midnight. That's the second shift. Obviously, the third shift is midnight to 8. And then we have this, what we call is a split shift that an officer works, which is a tough shift to work, is the 8 p to 4 a shift. So from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., 5 days a week, there's 1 officer on the street, 1 inside. From 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., I have 1 officer on the street and 1 inside. But that doesn't happen. So Saturdays, all right, so let me explain this. Saturdays and Sundays on the day shift, there's 1 officer on the street, there's 1 officer inside. So there's your 56 hours. a week. So if we got the 12th officer, that 8P to 4A officer would be moved to midnights. I'd put the new officer, we'll say on 4 to 12. And it still have 16 hours worth of liability on Saturdays and Sundays. However, that would be something I'd have to work out with the union, which I have some ideas on how I think I could handle that. But you know, but those shifts that I just described to you, we usually fill with overtime in the summertime. I have no choice. And I think the question has come up over the past few years is, if we give you the 12th, if the 12th officer come in, would reduce the overtime? Probably not. So simple fact is, if that officer goes out sick, vacation, personal, if we're going to maintain minimum manning to where we want it to be, if they're out, we have to fill the shift. We have no, in some bigger police departments, there might be a little bit of, there's extra manpower in shifts. So before they hire overtime, they may have to get down 2 officers before they need to hire. We don't have that luxury. It's simple. 1 officer in, 1 officer out. It's we have 11 police officers in that department full time, covering 365 days a year, 24 hours a day around the clock. So the 12th officer would definitely help. It wouldn't alleviate all my problems, but a majority of them. And the other 2 days would have to work something out in order to make it work for us. So, obviously it's an expense. You hire a new officer, I'm guessing at I don't have it in front of me, but we'll say 60,000 plus her education incentive, shift differential, and like Tony and I discussed, it's and then you add their benefits in. So it is an expense. However, the way policing is today, and over the last year since COVID, it's probably been one of my busiest years here. We've experienced some issues that we usually don't come across. And I think last year you could see the amount of people in this town because of the COVID, and everybody was unemployed. The vacations were canceled. There was no basketball, baseball, etc. The kids they had nowhere to go. And we had a huge increase in traffic over here. And we had, we had a lot of, I say good arrests, doesn't take it that way, but we took some people off the street that, we'd stolen cars. We had one that did he did an armed robbery, 5 of them at 3 o'clock in the morning. We got them up in Little Nahant Road, and we had 2 officers on the street at that time, but it took 7 or 8 of us from mutual aid to come over, and we finally got this man. We got him off the street. We got him out of the town of Nahant, and the officers did a fantastic job. So, a lot goes on that people don't see. And just this past week, we had somebody for the weekend because of COVID would make an arrest, and we'd take, after we booked them, if they were non-bailable, we could take them up to Middleton. Because of COVID, we own them. So if we make an arrest on a Friday and the courts are closed, we own them till Monday. So we gotta sit there watching them around the clock, 24 hours a day. We gotta feed them. We gotta take care of this, whoever we may have in custody. So it's a lot goes on that it's tough to put on paper, So it's been a busy, trying year for us for sure.
Well, thank you for that thorough explanation. I appreciate it.
No problem.
It was a difficult, I know I'll just jump in here.
Yeah, sure.
It was a difficult decision, not to include that extra officer in this year's budget that we sent to the FinCom. Certainly, of all the departments in the town, our police and our fire haven't stopped for 1 second throughout the coronavirus pandemic, while many of our other operations may have halted temporarily or gone into an alternative type of hours or setup. Police and fire haven't stopped. And that being said, concerned about our revenues in the upcoming year, ultimately that was the decision in order to have a balanced budget and maintain the other goals of the town's finances. It just wasn't doable this year, but it's definitely something that Chief Dwyer and I talk about all the time, especially, and it's when those are the hours, it's only 56 hours a week, but those are the hours that, stuff happens. And those are the hours that Chief Dwyer or whoever the next chief is at home, wide-eyed, worried about the guys, in town. And I don't know if you guys remember, we had a manhunt in the middle of the night this past summer. We had a
Swatting call,
what's that?
a swatting call,
A swatting call. So we had basically a fake like murder.
active shooter call.
A fake active shooter call in Bass Point, where we couldn't communicate with the officers directly. So you have one man on the road and one man in headquarters, and they're getting the call saying, talking about what's happening in the house, and they can't really communicate with the guy on the road, and he's out there by himself. And if it was a real active shooter situation, it could have been, much different. So those are the types of things that, especially in the summertime with, the residential developments in Lynn, right on the Lynnway, Nahant has been discovered. I know it sounds
Exposed,
odd, but
correct.
it's been discovered by, more and more people over the summer. And we're just a short Uber ride over, or a walk, and there's a lot, our numbers increase dramatically over the summer months as far as people in town. So it's definitely something, that Chief Dwyer and I have been talking about for a while, and I wish I could have had it in there, but it just wasn't something that we could do this year. But it's certainly something that we're going to continue to look at in the future.
Tony, do we get any help from DCR?
So
Well,
you say, as far as DCI, you're talking about funding?
Well, funding or manpower.
Well, manpower would be through the state police. So the reason why we have those beach details down there is simply because when they did that beach parking lot over, I met with DCR in reference to, and I wanted to make sure that we had the right people there managing that area. They pay for those details. So if you want to say that, they're paying for those details. The town of Nahant's not paying those details. And I wanted to have control of those details just for the simple fact is, because we're going to work. I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to make sure that we keep the road open to get the residents in and out of there, and especially emergency equipment. The state police will come when we call. They're busy as well, and they're stretched. Sometimes there's one cruiser on the road handling, all the way from Chelsea all the way to Lynn Shore Drive. So they could have one motor vehicle accident, and it could be a serious one, and they'll try to pull from another barracks to get your hand down there if you need it. They are very responsive to our calls down there during the summer months. What people have to understand is we have concurrent jurisdiction down there. So we will respond to everything down there, medical aid, lost children, whatever goes on down there, we're going. Simple fact is we notify notify the state police to respond as well. But we get there, if it's something they can handle, we turn it over to them and clear. But we want to make sure there's a police response there because we do have current jurisdiction down there. So they will help us when we call.
All right, thank you.
Chief does a good job of maintaining a healthy reserve list too. So in the summertime, we certainly have a lot more officers on the road because of course we get really busy there. So
right, we couldn't do it with just the 11 we have, Tony, and thanks for bringing that up and recognize the reserves, especially during this, since March of last year to date with the COVID, we wouldn't have made it without them. They did a fantastic job. They were committed to me. Trying to follow all the COVID protocols and keeping everybody healthy, the station clean, the cruises clean. Everybody pitched in to A, keep the town safe, and B, keep all the officers safe and healthy so we can get through this. We've been fortunate.
What would What would the investment be for a 12th officer?
Salary wise,
Well, no, all in.
well, all in, I'm gonna have to say, give or take, with benefits, medical benefits. I would have to say close to 100, Tony, you agree?
Yeah, so your base salary there is 58.9. Throw 20,000 on top of that for benefits. You don't know if they're coming in with a full family or not, but at most call it 20 grand on top of that. So right there's 80, and then overtime or whatnot. So
Plus-
yeah, 100's
Plus
probably.
first year you have to go through the academy.
Well, yes, most likely, but here's the scenario on the academy. The academy expenses to get them in the door of the academy would be roughly $5,000 to $6,000 between the tuition and equipment to get them in, to get that person into the academy. However, here it is. We did have to train somebody to go through the police academy for this. You wouldn't be backfilling their shift with overtime because we don't have that 12th officer right now. So I'd leave the schedule as it is. And so, for example, if we move the midnight officer to midnights and it opened up the 4 to 12 shift, if I move the AP to 4A officer to midnights and open up the 4 to 12 shift, I wouldn't fill that until the officer was graduated from the academy. I'd leave the shifts like they are and still run with the 56 hours of liability until they get out of the academy. So it wouldn't be like we'd be paying overtime for that officer, the 12th officer, while they were in the academy. They'd be getting their base pay, is what I'm trying to get at.
What's the additional capital requirements for the 12th body?
Correct.
But it's ongoing. And so I don't know that I understand. We wouldn't hire a candidate that's already been through the academy?
Well, we tried. That doesn't always work out. Sometimes you get lucky, you post the jobs, and I've been fortunate over the last few years to grab a few people that have the academies. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you have to hire, not to sound like one of our reserves who've been fantastic, and some of them are looking for full-time jobs. And sometimes you like to reach in the well with the reserves and give them an opportunity if they've been hanging around, working hard for the town for 3 or 4 years, and this person, how they deal with the public, and it's a chance for them to understand our system, and we can get them into the academy and hire them full time. So there's some pros to that as well.
Chief, I don't, my question was how much capital each officer comes in. I would imagine we must have to spend X numbers of dollars on capital to outfit them.
Yeah, so they get a uniform allowance coming through the door of $1,000, which a new officer, that's not a lot of money. So, you're probably talking, if I were to train them, send them to the academy. So the academy expenses are around $3,500. Equipment to get them in the academy is probably $2,000. You're probably talking, $7,500 roughly.
Not a new vehicle.
Not a new vehicle, no.
No,
No.
because the other shifts, Jeff, on the other shifts, you have 2 vehicles, two officers in 2 separate vehicles and 1 guy in the building. So on
Yeah, we
that
don't-
56 hours, there's 1 cruiser sitting in the parking lot there that.
Okay, so like, I notice each cruiser has like their own laptop, so you don't need, they share laptops, or each individual has their own laptop,
No.
their own radio.
No, all right, the only radio they have, Jeff, is the portable radio they're assigned. Everybody's assigned their own portable radio. When you get in the cruiser, those laptops are locked in there. They don't take them out. They can't take them out. They're locked into
All
a
right, it's not assigned to a man, it's
No,
assigned to
no.
a vehicle. Okay,
vehicle, and they can
Thank you.
log in and out. Each officer logs in and out of the computer.
okay.
Hey, Chief, we have 4 new members of the FinCom, and one of the items in your budget is your capital for your
Mhm.
vehicle. So can you just talk the new members through how you treat the kind of process for replacing vehicles?
All right, sure. All right, so if you follow our capital plan that was put out several years ago, vehicles replacement, these is either say greater than 75,000 miles or 5 to 6 years old. So this year, as I said to Tony, initially I said to him, I thought maybe I could get away without a vehicle this year, a cruiser. However, that's not going to happen. Just last week alone, I had 3 cruisers in 3 different garages. Well, 2 different garages. They just happened to all, I have a great maintenance program with them. On top of those cars, like I own, like they were my own. So it's not a lack of maintenance. It's a lack when we buy a vehicle in 2014, we start it up. It doesn't shut off for the most part. It's running 24/7, and it's just simple wear and tear. So after 4 or 5 years, it's time to replace them. So I put in for a new cruiser this year, 2021 Ford Police Interceptor, which is what we're driving. I don't have too many choices. The only other choice would be a Chevy Tahoe, which I looked into that vehicle because I think they're better built. However, the price was $10,000 more than the Ford vehicle. This year's vehicle, the 2021, they changed the design of the vehicle like they did in 2011 when they went from the Crown Vic to this new type Police Interceptor. So a lot of the equipment is currently in the vehicle that we're going to trade in will not fit in the new vehicle. So for example, the console that all our equipment lines up in, our radio and our radars and et cetera, will not fit into the new vehicle. So this cruiser that I put in for includes upgrade with equipment. On the other side of that too, it's not a bad idea to replace the equipment because you're buying a brand new car and you're putting 5 and 6-year-old equipment into it. And sometimes that can cause you an issue as well. So I put in for a brand new cruiser, 2021, and I got an estimate from MHQ, who has a state bid, for $54,729. And that's the car completely done, lights, radios, computer stands, everything we need to operate the vehicle. And on the other side of the capital, I put in for this year, and I put it off again last year. I deal with a company that comes in and services our AEDs. I want to say the AEDs we're currently using are over 12 years old, and it's time to replace them. So to replace 7 AEDs is going to cost us around $11,000. So that's the 2 I put in for this year in capital. The AEDs, I pushed them off last year. The company that serviced and suggested I did it last year. There wasn't a big price increase for me to wait another year, so I put it off another year. And I spoke with her again, and she said, "It's time. You gotta change these out." So you gotta understand they're in and out of the cruises every day. So I say 7, because if I could have all vehicles out on a Saturday and Sunday, I want to make sure each one of those vehicles has an AED in it. We've always carried that many. And it's just my luck. I'll have a cruiser tied up somewhere and something will come in, he'll get there, he doesn't have his AED. We're the first on the team. And if an AED is needed, we're hooked up before the fire department gets there.
Did I hear you correctly? You have 7 vehicles?
No, I do not have 7. Well, we can add it. Yeah. So I have 4 Mark cruisers, my cruiser. We have an ATV we use on the beach. We keep one in the station. We have to keep one in the station because we have somebody under, arrest and custody, and the motorcycle. So 6 vehicles we could be running at any time.
So an absolute, in a perfect world, if one died a year, would be in just to normal wear and tear, would be replacing 1 a year.
Correct. So
I think you mentioned 75,000. So
Yeah.
you almost have to budget. Would you say 84,000? What was the final number?
54,000, but
So
once we get
55
over
a
this
year just to
hurdle,
replace
right,
vehicles as they wear out.
right, and I can attest that that we didn't have this process in place many years ago, and it failed the town. It got to the point where we didn't have vehicles to drive. I'm going to leave it at that, not to embarrass anybody, but we didn't have vehicles to drive because we didn't have a system in place, and we'd wait until it was crisis time, and we'd go up and buy one cruiser, and we'd, we'd drive that car, and we're lucky we'd get 2 years out of it. And I have to understand something, you know, as far as sometimes, you know, we don't have enough vehicles. Sometimes we're driving you know, we have a spare EMD car we use in the winter months. Sometimes we have to jump into that because we don't have enough cruises in the summertime. There's some events going on, if we have to block streets off or whatever it may be. What we're running with now works, and we need to replace the car. One car a year. If I could get away with it, to say, yeah, we can skip this year, we can move on to next year, I would do it. But it's
At
not.
some point, you'd end up spending
Yeah.
for 2 cars that year.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. So that's pretty much it on the capital this year.
Thank you.
So if we go on to the our expenses,
Hey, may I ask a question, please?
sure.
About the vehicles. And first, also, thank you so much. And I'm new to the committee. I'm Barbara Beatty, and thank you for explaining this all. And I also think it's been very interesting and helpful for everyone to learn about the changes, and dealing with COVID has been, you've made it so we understand even more how hard it's been. I mean, can just imagine. But
Yeah,
thank
it's
you so
been a
much.
rough year. Yeah.
And you've been having to have all of you in situations in which you have not been safe, not
Correct.
completely. And dealing with that's tough. So you're frontline for us, and we appreciate it.
And thank you very much. And
I want you to know
and
that.
I thank the officers that work in there every day, and it's on their minds. It's weighing on their minds every single day. And a lot of them have young children home, you know,
Right.
and you know, they go home. People we come in contact, we do the best we can to glove up, to mask up, you know, follow all the PPE protocols, and trying to keep our work area. It's been a challenge, trying to keep our work areas clean, our cruises clean, and also trying to, you know, keep the public safe and going into their environments and into their homes and into businesses. And so it's been a challenge. And all I can say is I'm fortunate to have the people who work. I don't say, I hate to use for me, I say with me on this last year. And we all got together and you know, include Tony and the fire department. We've all gotten together, and we've worked through a lot of details, a lot of issues, but we managed to figure it out with communication, and I just can't wait till it's over, put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
thankful of the shots. We've all gotten the shots. So
Have you been able to get enough of the PPE and the things like that you need to protect yourselves?
sure. So initially it was a little tough. Thankfully, we had some stock. I don't know if it was the Ebola breakout or one of them we got from FEMA. MEMA, I think. And so we had some equipment on hand that got us going. And with the help of, we set up our emergency management department, and we had Kyle McCarry was a big help, Dennis Ball and Mike Halley. You know, they got on the computer and communicating back and forth with MEMA and phone calls. And all of a sudden, you know, now we started getting more and more PPE equipment coming in, and then I would take it to the PD and would disperse it from there to whoever needed it. The fire department, the, you know, town hall, the school, whoever needed equipment, we tried to get it out to them, so we're all protected. And
Also,
they-
as frontline workers, have you been able to get vaccinated?
so the entire department, first responders, yes. So majority of us have been vaccinated. Most of the officers had their second shot last week. I go this Thursday.
Good.
So just about all of us decided to get the vaccine. So
Excellent.
we're heading down the right road. Hopefully we can get over this.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And again, please know how grateful we are. I have one question about the vehicles, and that
Yep.
is, I'm sure you've been thinking ahead the way everyone is about what we're hearing about the possibility of some of the, you know, like Ford and Chevy and others of the companies are thinking about moving into electric
Mhm.
vehicles, you know, down the road. Is that something that you've got sort of?
Well, there's not been a lot of talk on the police end of it right now. As far as the police cruisers go, I would think that would be that that would be something in time. Somebody was probably they'll probably develop one somewhere along the line. And put it out there as a frontline cruiser. I think some departments have, like, the detectives might be in one of those vehicles. They're really not pressing for emergencies. So right now there isn't a lot of talk on that end. Will I see it someday? Most likely, but right now these are the options that we have to purchase. Those vehicles are built for police work.
Right. I was just wondering what you were hearing. So I would have thought.
Not a lot.
Yeah, not a lot yet. That's what I was expecting you to say.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
Yep.
they're probably, they're thinking on it.
Thinking ahead, sure. Yeah.
And they'll let you know when they've got,
Right, when they go with it.
I hope this all can move along. Anyway, thank you so much. Very helpful.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So, purchase of services, we just went over the capital. Again, if you look at this budget here, it's almost, I've level funded this for the last few years, so it's pretty much level funded. There was some increases in my purchase of services, but other than that, this budget is pretty much level funded. Tony took a few things out of there, but for the most part, it's level funded from last year. There wasn't a huge increase in my purchase of services. Any questions on that? Be glad to answer them.
Just a dumb question. You don't have any computers running on Windows 7, do you?
No, everything's 10. We
Okay.
upgraded all. We have a new company.
Went
that's-
through that crisis though.
Yes,
Oh,
we
did
did.
you? Okay.
Cost us a fortune.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
we're in
I
good
know.
shape. Yeah, we're in good shape now, and we got a great company that comes in and High Q. They're awesome. Any issues we have, they helped us upgrade to Windows 10. Some of the units had to be replaced. I knew that was coming, but some of the units that we had, they just upgraded. Some, like I said, needed to be replaced. And Tony took the lead on that, and he got us straightened out through the entire town. He's done a great job with that. Any further questions on my expenses?
Tony DeWitt Brown,
Yes.
is the priority of a new firehouse above getting a 12th man?
Well, if for me, I think that we should be, if we're talking about a new building of that magnitude, to me, it only makes sense that we're talking about a public safety building, something that is inclusive of both the police department, fire department, potentially, emergency management as well. But that you're talking about multi-million dollar expense compared to $100,000 annual expense. So it's kind of tough to compare the two and what's the priority or one or the other. But they're both extremely important. Obviously we need facility. I mean, we're wasting a ton of money making repairs to the facilities that we have because they're just very old military type buildings that weren't intended to serve the purpose that they're serving. And I think the police department was an old school, if I'm correct. So, but that's Nahant. That's the way
Right.
we've always worked our way through our issues is try to be creative and get through it. And, Chief Dwyer's done an amazing job with that old school.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So, hey, Tony,
yeah.
are we at the point where we should advocate for a committee to study a public safety building?
We have a committee that isn't active, so it doesn't need to be created, it just needs to be activated. I think we authorize it every year.
I mean, we could just take the Coast Guard Housing Committee and let them roll off of that and right on to the.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. I think
So-
Judy, you willing to jump on to the next project?
I will say that
Um,
I was, and I guess I still am on that committee. So I
I
have my,
think we should be thinking strongly about
Yeah.
funds towards feasibility study of some sort.
Yeah.
You know, so that when a potential federal grant comes down the road, we're shovel ready.
yeah,
And I
Right.
agree with the public safety building. I think it's long overdue that, you know, our building obviously is, I actually have I think it's over 100 years old. And I think they put a foundation there so where we have the cell blocks and raise it. And I want to say, I heard stories, I can't confirm this, but it was across the street. They moved it to where we are currently. So we've cleaned it up, we've made it work, but it's not a police station per se. I don't have storage space, I don't have office space. We don't have an interview room. I can go on and on and on. We make it work, but I think if the town was to move forward, I think they should look into, you know, building a public safety building and end it. And we'll all be in the same area. That's going to be tough too, finding the right, you know, we got to be up high somewhere. We can't be in the lowlands. You know, our building is probably in the best place, but as far as room to build there, a public safety building, somebody would actually have to look at it, see if it's feasible. But a public safety building is what we should be looking at.
I don't disagree, right? But here's the thing. We have a lot of things that need to be done. And it's frustrating if you're going to charter a committee and knowing that there's no way on earth it's ever going to pass in a town meeting, because we still haven't talked about the sewer or those things,
Correct.
those things that are going to be
Right.
wildly expensive. I'm not to say, Chief, that absolutely you're not right. I believe that you are, and I believe that, listen, I've seen the fire station. Frankly, they definitely, you know, really need help. But to charter a committee knowing that we don't have the money and we have no place for that money doesn't seem like the right thing to do.
The reason I asked is the way these things work is it tends to be sort of an annual event. And if you miss that annual event, you're stuck waiting an entire another year till you can kind of jump in and start the cycle. So I was asking the question, is it premature to start the cycle now, knowing full well that it's going to be several years before anything comes to fruition? And somebody, I forget who it was, said be shovel ready should a grant appear. Was that you, John?
that was
was
Austin, that was via Austin, I think, in the conversation we had
Week.
in the past. But yeah,
Yeah, and I don't think you're starting from scratch either. I don't think that you know, there were conversations under Jeff Chelgren, I believe,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I don't think you're starting completely from scratch, but I agree with Judy. It'd be nice to have dollars associated with that you could actually, you know, put together a feasibility study, a design that is like shovel ready, you know, ready to go. The price tag may be $30 million. It may, you know, maybe a really steep cost. But that's, you know, maybe it ends up being half that with a grant. So you never know.
Any other questions on my budget? Or I should say the town's budget for the police department?
If there are, I'll just quickly say, for those of you that don't know, Chief Dwyer is retiring at the end of July. Has served the town for
30 years,
30 years and has
30
been the
years.
chief for 14, 15,
11.
11.
Yeah.
Um,
Stop it. You're making me feel old.
So I'll just take the moment to, you guys have worked, some of you on this committee have met with Chief Dwyer more than you've met with me. And I know that you guys would echo my comments that he's done a miraculous job in maintaining their budget. He does, as far as a manager goes or a department head on the account side, he's at the top of the list. He also does a tremendous job interacting with the community and leading his team and getting all of our officers to be more of community type officers and policing. And he's going to be extremely missed. And it's been a long year. It's been a very difficult year, and I hope that we get through this sooner so that you can go out like on a high note instead of the stresses of, if you guys remember at the beginning of COVID, police were celebrated with doing birthday parades and that sort of thing for folks who couldn't get out and they were still working. And then what happened across the country with the racial justice movement and police reform, and all of a sudden the lens just totally shifted, making it extremely difficult for police everywhere. And I know Chief Dwyer's been dealing with police reform legislation here in the state and keeping his guys motivated and in line and on top of things. So capping off a long career with one of the most difficult years, very commendable. We'll miss him dearly.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. Appreciate it. And I'm fortunate to work for a community like Nahant, and they're very supportive to the law enforcement, and we appreciate it and we see it, and it's support is huge in this job, and the officers, like I said to the especially the younger ones coming in, I said, give it some time here. You'll fall in love with this town and what you do, and you'll see how the people react to the support that we get from the community. And it's a great place to work, and I've been very happy here.
Is it my understanding that you were also in the Coast Guard?
No, that was my son.
Oh,
Not me. My son was in the Coast Guard.
I was going to give you a Semper Paratus.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No.
So Chief, I will echo what some of the sentiments that Tony expressed, that in my time on the FinCom, I think you've come before me. I think this is my 8th or 9th year.
Yeah.
And every year, you're thoroughly prepared, and at the same time, a forceful advocate for your men and for your department and for what they do for the community. So, every town administrator that I've worked with have always said, Chief Dwyer, he's on top of it. It's all good. He's gonna bring the facts to the table and the numbers to the table and the logic and the passion to the table. So thank you for doing that for the years that you've been here, and it will be missed, but I'm sure whoever fills your shoes will hopefully pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I'll make sure of that, that the right person's in there. And I thank you too, John. And like I said, our mission is to protect the people, to protect the town, the public. That's our mission. And I want to make sure that I want to keep the officers safe. Like I said, this job, it turned on 30 years ago. You flick a switch 30 years ago, and it hasn't shut off yet. And I think after, you get to a point where you say, now it's time to relax a little bit. I'm not going to stop working. I'm only 59, and I'm not going to sit still, but I'm going to move on to something else. I don't know what yet, but it's just time. And I think it's just my goal has been to take care of the town's property, take care of the vehicles that they give me every year, take care of the officers, and most importantly, the community. And it's simple. It's simple, and it's hard work. You got to put some time in. It doesn't come easy. But thank you. I want to thank everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for your service and time over the last, what, 30 years?
Yes, yes. It goes by quick.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So
All right.
if you
So
guys, if anybody has any questions offline, please send me an email. If you want to swing by the station, if there's any questions, you want to look around, we're always welcome. The community's welcome.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, shall we move on to the other Tony? I am going to try, let's see, make host. I want to change host to you. All right, so Tony, you are host, so you should be able to share something.
If you don't mind, I'm Lauren Sherlock. I'm the chair of the school committee. And if you don't mind, I'd just love to introduce Tony and thank everyone for hosting
Absolutely.
us here this evening.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Thank you. So thank you all as members of the FinCom and Mr. Barletta for hosting us this evening. In addition to myself, Regina Lane, one of their school committee members, is here in attendance. And of course, Tony Parentazzi, our superintendent. And the committee is grateful to Mr. Parentazzi for developing the presentation of our budget this evening. His budgeting skills are greatly appreciated and valued by our committee. Not only is he conscientious and careful, but he's also creative and seeks to fund our initiatives wherever possible through grants. Is always looking for long-term solutions that will end up benefiting our town, such as LED light, collaboration with the green community and all of that. So we can't be more grateful to him. And I just want to preface his presentation by saying that, due to his diligence and hard work in collaboration with the committee, but really he's at the helm, I think he's crafted the lowest responsible budget possible for our district. And I look forward to him kind of walking us through it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And if someone can tell me if they are seeing what I'm seeing?
PowerPoint.
What do you
Oh, we
think?
are seeing a PowerPoint, so that's if that's what you're seeing, we're good.
Yeah, that was a loaded question, wasn't it?
Success. Madam, Mr. Chair, I'm not quite sure if you want me to do a little tutorial before I begin in terms of the difference between the school committee budget versus all the other departments for the new members.
I think that would be helpful.
Okay, so the under Mass General Law, the school committee is the fiscal arbiter of the budget of a school district. So unlike the police department, the fire department, the council on aging, etc., the school committee actually votes their budget, and the school committee has voted the budget that I'm going to be on their behalf presenting to you this evening. On February 9th, they unanimously approved it. So the finance committee's decision would be, and please, Mr. Barletta, correct me in any way, would be to either recommend it or not recommend it. If there are going to be cuts, they actually have to occur at the either at the town meeting not supporting the budget, and then it goes back to the school committee who does the cuts. Or if after this meeting, the information from the finance committee would be that they don't believe that the budget is a responsible one, then the school committee can revisit it. We began developing this budget on December 15th. I presented my first budget. On January 12th, a second. On January 26th, a third version. And on February 9th, we actually had a public hearing. And on that evening, the school committee unanimously approved this budget. So we are different. In my time here, the finance committee has been incredibly supportive of our budget. And I believe it's for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the school committee is extremely careful with the finances that they are responsible for. I will show you a 4-year span of the cost of education in the district. And I think you will agree that it's very responsible. Second, I try to very hard not spend money if we have money left in a year's budget. There are other individuals who might believe that it's their responsibility to take their department budget, and if there's a X number of dollars left, to utilize it in some way so that there's no money left. I view it the other way around. If we have a good year and, for example, a special education, a student who we budgeted for decides to, their family decides to move and we don't have that expense, I try to return that money as free cash because the town is always very supportive of us. And in the last few years, I have been able to return significant amounts of money for free cash, not because the budget was overdeveloped at a high level, but because we just happened to run into a sequence of very positive things. A couple of very expensive students moved. One student who was in a private setting decided to go to finish their high school career in Swampscott at a very less of a cost and at no special transportation cost. So there are things that we can do. I also try to utilize breakage. Breakage is the amount of money that is spent in year one for a senior staff member who may leave or retire and then be replaced by a staff member that is less expensive. Some people believe that that's their money to kind of spend any way they can. I believe it's the town's money and it's my responsibility to utilize it to reduce the growth of the budget. So with, I hope that helps.
Just a quick question, since I'm new at this. We're governed by Prop 2.5. Does the school committee, when they do their budget, do you have any government controls as to what you can do year over year?
Mr. Chair, through you, Madam Chair, through you. Actually, only the town is overall budget is constrained by 2.5. However, the school committee is very much aware of that constraint and therefore attempts to keep our expenditures within the 2.5. I don't want to give you a preface of my punchline, but I can tell you the school committee has done a remarkable job of keeping it under 2.5. And 2.5 is really an antiquated concept that the legislature really has to begin adjusting because it doesn't take COLA into account. So there have been years where our cost of living in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has gone up above 2.5. And therefore, it puts public administration like Tony in a position to reduce services because obviously employee costs, insurance, gasoline, diesel fuel, salt, things like that, the cost isn't lower from year to year, it's always higher.
Yeah.
So 2.5 in its inception was a great concept, but there are some issues with it.
You may want to mention net school spending and how that plays or not plays here.
Sure. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has a very complex formula to communicating to a town or city or a regional school district if they are spending enough money. So, and that's called net school spending. So based on the economics of the community, of the need of the students, and several other factors, tax rate, land value, average income, percentage of people on state or federal assistance, etc., there's a complex formula, and each community is required to spend a certain amount of money. The town of Nahant spends in excess of the amount required by the state. And so net school spending has never been a factor since I've been here. I believe it was about a decade and a half ago or a decade ago. But
You don't happen to know how much over that break point we're at? Just for my own FYI.
I can look it up, but off the top of my head, I do not.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, this is John. I'll just
Yep.
chime in that over the years, I've compiled a whole assortment of data and numbers related to net school spending and how Nahant has, found itself within the context of those numbers. And I'll make sure I find a way to share that with you and the rest of the committee, because there's a lot of stuff that I've kind of tucked away somewhere in an Excel file, but it's time to bring it back out and make sure more people
That
see
would
it.
be very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, John educated me several years ago. He does have all that data, and thank you very much. It was a lot of work, I'm sure, putting it all together. Searching the state coffers for data is not easy.
I've noticed.
So, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I will continue.
Oh, please.
Wait,
The most important thing on
Oh,
this,
no, wait.
can I just ask one also budget question in advance? Do we get state, federal Title I money? Do we qualify for a certain percentage of Title I funding for the school because of low income?
Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, through you, yes, we do.
Right,
Minimal. It's a minimal amount of money, I can assure
figured.
you.
But we do qualify at some basic level.
Yes, a
Okay.
very basic level.
Right, thank you.
So the most important thing on the first slide is that I am presenting this budget for the school committee. It is actually the school committee's budget. And we have had during this year, for those of you who were here last year, we've had significant change in the school committee. The chair and the vice chair are actually the only individuals who were here last year on the committee. So it's and of course you have had significant change on your committee. So it's always fun and exciting to work with new people. So the initial budget that I presented to the school committee increased by just about $200,000 and just about a 4.8% increase. I have spent the last month and a half to 2 months honing that down. And the budget that I'm going to present on behalf of the school committee is divided into the district, the school, and the town segments. And then it's rolled into one budget, and I will show you that. So the budget does include all salary increases. The members of the Finance Committee need to know that we do not have union contracts for next year. Those of you who have been on the committee for a while probably will smile when I say this, but we are in the rollover year 4 that you asked me to do so that we could get in consort with the town so that the union contracts would all be up at the same time. And then, of course, when I did that, the town decided to extend their contract. So we're out of sequence again. So, but we had a 3-year contract from 17 to 20. The school committee signed a 1-year extension, and the town contracts were supposed to be up at the same time, but that that didn't happen. So, so the union contract salary amounts in this budget are estimations. That's the best I can do.
So no, wait, could stop. I'm confused. So this is the fourth year of a 3-year contract. But you said they had signed a 1-year extension. So does that 1-year extension not cover this year?
It does cover this year, the current year, not next year. This is next year's budget.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm thinking a year
Nope,
behind.
nope.
Got it, okay.
But he's out of sync with the regular city or town contracts.
Right. Okay, so these, you have in there an estimated increase.
That is correct for fiscal 22.
Right, which does sort of send a message. Okay.
We have 2 kindergarten sections this year and 1 section in every other grade. The data that I have at my disposal at this time suggests that next year we will need 1 kindergarten section and we will roll the 2 sections to first grade. That is potentially budget neutral. It obviously depends upon the staffing. It includes the increase in the Swampscott tuition for our 7th through 12th graders. It includes cost for COVID-19 supplies. It includes our Essex North Shore Aggie and Tech tuitions, and it includes special education. The total increase is $117,068, of which $63,000 approximately are at the district level, $52,000 at the Johnson School level, and $2,000 at the town level, and I will explain all that. Please stop me anytime.
I'm sorry, could you tell me again what's the percentage increase?
The percentage increase of what?
Of the budget?
The entire budget?
Yes.
I will show it to you in a moment in writing if you want to wait. And if not, I can tell you that it's 2.835%.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So the tuition increase to Swampscott increases the budget $60,305, which is 51% of the $117,000 increase. All the other district lines are $2,000, which totals to the $62,652 district increase. The Johnson School changes are, as I explained, the potentially budget neutral staffing change from kindergarten to first grade, approximately $11,000 for current and budgeted staff increases, adding 1 paraprofessional, and putting in the budget custodial supplies and other health and safety related supplies for COVID. I discussed this with the town administrator, and we made the decision to continue to cover this within the budget, a portion of it within the budget, because we're just not sure what's going to happen in the future. Obviously, if that amount of money is not required, either because the COVID situation improves and or we get more federal grant money, that would not be spent. These 2 items, as you see, represent approximately 39% of the $117,000. The transportation changes have a $2,089 net increase. One of the transportations went up and one of them went down. The special education transportation went down and the general education transportation went up. And all of this, of course, is detailed in the line items of the budget worksheet that I have previously sent to you. So the budget overview looks like this. Just comparing the current year with the projections for next year. I do want to explain why in 2021 there's an adjusted total budget. That is because after the budget was approved by the school committee, the Essex Aggie and technical tuition went up. So the town accountant had to amend the budget for town meeting. So I wanted to show you that. And obviously, the 3% increases are balanced with the small increase to get to the 2.835%. And this is the slide that I've been waiting to show you. Over the last 4 years, there has been a total of a 10.4% increase in the gross education cost to the taxpayer in our town. Obviously, very, very close to a flat 2.5%. And of course, the town's 2.5% grows by growth. And this does not take that into consideration. So over 4 years, we have done a very, very good job of controlling the costs and providing an excellent education. I do want the members of the Finance Committee to know that only approximately 8% of the elementary schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are in session right now. And we have been in session, with the exception of 1.5 days, since the beginning of the school year, due to an enormous, great teamwork by the public health nurse. Debbie has been phenomenal, by our school nurse, by our staff, working very, very hard to put in place and to keep the protocols on a very rigid basis. The parents and guardians and children who have followed the protocols really remarkably well. We have been able to keep our school open. We have had students who have tested positive. As a matter of fact, this year we have had 11. We have had close contacts. We have had staff members and students who have had to stay home in quarantine, but we have not had one communicated case of COVID-19 in our school. The close contact surveys show that all of the cases took place elsewhere. So we're very, very proud of that. And again, it's a team that has worked extraordinarily well together, and we continue to do so to this time.
That's really terrific, seriously terrific. And so thank you for that. I have to wonder how you've been able to keep the schools open. And although certainly it's a group effort, but what could other districts learn from the way you work?
Well, we're blessed with a building that in 2007 housed more, when the renovation was finished, housed more students than we have now. Therefore, we were able to, with a lot of changes in venue within the building, provide an education for our students and maintain a 6-foot physical distance. My previous position in Somerville, where I had thousands of students, really in much fewer square foot per student, they're not able to do what we can do. And most schools are not. That's one reason. The second reason is, as I said, our reopening plan was approved by the school committee and submitted to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, was really well designed by the reopening team. and we followed it. I myself, you see my face now, but nobody else in the building has seen my face since February of last year. And I wear 2 masks all the time. I'm double masked, and I have been for months. The CDC last week decided that people should be doing that. Well, I followed the advice of our school nurse and our public health nurse because my spouse has a compromised immune system. They made that recommendation to me, double mask. So,
I think we really followed the most stringent of the available guidance that's been out there. We've been, the most conservative we could be. It would have been okay to 3-foot distance. We insisted on 6-foot distancing. It would have been okay to reopen with masks for 3rd grade and up, and we decided that didn't make sense to us. It would be masks for all. So we tried to make sound decisions based in science and what we know about public health and infection and transmission. And we've insisted upon rational protocols that, as Mr. Parentazzi has said, that they be consistently followed by all. We have quite strict policies and procedures around them. And then we've been fortunate to have time pass and be able to gather data since September and witness that these measures that we thought would work and made sense that they would work, that they have worked. But we've been very fortunate.
And I have to say that I've been blessed not only having really high quality medical individuals working with me that I mentioned, but 2 members of our school committee, when we developed the reentry plan, are medical professionals, and they were immensely helpful with their perspective. I'm sure a lot of superintendents didn't have that benefit. So, Mr. Chair, the last thing I'm going to say is the bottom line is the addition of the paraprofessional, the COVID supplies, the Swampscott costs, and the general education transportation, those 4 items in our budget exceed the $117,000 increase. The reason I was able to back that down and cover everything else that we need to do, as you see in the line items, is by utilizing the breakage that I explained previously. So, and I was very pleased to be able to do that. And Mr. Chair, I'll turn this back over to you, I think. How do I do that?
That's a good question. Do you see the 3 little, if you hover your arrow thing, your cursor over your picture, you should see 3 dots appear in the upper right-hand corner. Click on the 3 dots, and I'm assuming that one of the choices will be, I don't know.
Scroll over Bob Vanderslice, and there's 3 dots.
Okay.
And there's a make host option.
Even better.
Got it.
My powers have been restored. For all that's worth. So rest of the committee, questions, comments?
I have a quick,
for the record, Dana Sheehan has joined us.
can I ask a quick question, Tony? So, so you kind of talked us through the timeline and the progression of your initial budget and, where we've landed now. Can you just talk in a real high level of what did you have to take out? Like, what are you sacrificing that you thought you wanted or needed to have in the beginning that's not there now? Just so we have like we talked to the chief, he wanted a 12th officer, but so what did you give up?
Thank you for that question. Once again, through both chairs, I have reduced some of the COVID supply costs because I am aware that there is going to be some more relief funding. I reduced special education administration costs because we were able to figure that cost into a grant. I reduced some of the salary costs because the breakage that I was predicting turned out to be so. And I fine-tuned a couple of the other costs downward. We actually didn't eliminate anything. From the original budget, I did eliminate some special education cost of transportation because the special education director, through the individual education process, was able to explain that one of the transportation costs that I had budgeted would not be necessary next year. And that was a significant number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You mentioned that you knew some COVID funding was coming through in the future.
Yeah,
Does
yes.
that imply that do you get grants or funding different than the town gets from state, federal sources, or in addition to?
Again, through the two chairs, yes, it does.
Oh,
I have already been asked by Ms. Beatty about Title I. That is a specific federal funding that augments a school budget for needy children. We get free and reduced lunch funds from the federal government. We get enhanced educational development funds for our staff. Again, I have to say that because we're so small, we get minimal amounts of these, but they're helpful. I mean, if you get a $12,000 that that comes from somewhere other than the local taxpayers, that's $12,000 that we don't need from the
it's like
regular.
your own organization's budget that then is integrated in with the town budget. You go through the same process that we're going through for the town. You must go through it for the school committee before you even reach us. Different
That is correct.
funding sources, and we're just one additional funding source.
Yeah, you're the big one. Candidly, the vast percentage of our funds come from the town tax rolls, as all the other departments, but we also have revolving accounts. We take in income in certain ways. So for example, in a normal year, students who are not on free and reduced lunch would pay for their lunches. This year, because of COVID-19, the federal government is repaying us for 100% of the lunches we provide for all the students. So we have a revolving account that would take in the money that parents would pay for lunches. We also have an early childhood program that we hold here at the Johnson School, and the parents pay for that. That would be 3, 4, and 5-year-old students before they're eligible for kindergarten. That also is in a revolving account, and then we pay for the staff and the materials and supplies that are used there through the parents' payments. And of course, this all goes through the town accountant, and it's all audited on an annual basis by a professional auditing company.
Thank you.
I have a question about the early childhood program. I'm sure you know that not only does the new Biden-Harris administration have a big new early childhood proposal as part of their recovery, but I also, you probably also know that there's a new state, it was just out today, I think yesterday, there's a new state early childhood pre-K childcare program proposal also at the state level. So I'm sure you're going to be keeping track, and we're all going to be hopeful But are there ways, for instance, this is something actually that's my field. I do early childhood policy. So I'm sort of asking you, I want to ask you to say, if we asked the chief, so what would you like, right? What would be your vision? What would be your dream? And the public safety building came up as being something we all seem, I mean, it sounded like a really good vision for the future, something to work toward. So I'm going to say to you personally, but that's just mine, but I want to hear from you. What would be your vision? What would be your dream for what you'd like to see happening for the school? And I'm hoping you'll mention some new early childhood, but overall, you don't have to say that. I'm just being.
No, that's, again, through the chairs. One of the differences between the chief and I is that the school committee makes those decisions for me.
Right.
I manage the decisions that the school committee makes. So I can tell you that universal early childhood education is good for all children. The data is clear that the earlier students read, the earlier students can identify early mathematical computations, the better they will do long term. I also want to caution us that a lot of the programs start out as concepts. My anticipation is that the universal early childhood is for high need cities and poverty areas.
That's where it'll start.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're right. But I guess I'm asking you a bigger question is when we ask the chief, so what would you envision? What would be, and John, that's what I heard you saying, sort of, what would be, because I mean, you work with the school committee, obviously together, you're working together.
Sure.
You make suggestions, you talk, you brainstorm. I've been a school principal. I've done
Yep.
this. So what would be your vision and what would you see as being the school board's vision going forward?
I guess, are you asking Barbara what's his wish list?
Yeah, thank you.
So one is one that's very concrete, a new roof for the gymnasium. Since I've been here, I've patched the roof twice. The second one was obviously magic because we haven't had a leak in I shouldn't have said that.
No,
I'm sorry. I take that back. I did not say what you just heard me say.
Exactly.
You know how much snow we're getting in the next couple days?
So, but that's on the horizon. Now, again, as asked previously, we're a little bit different than the other departments in town. We actually have access to some money through the Massachusetts School Building Authority, so that when we do need a roof, it is possible we can apply for a grant. Now, they're not going to pay for all of it. They're going to pay for a minority, but we could get some money. The last time I had an estimate done for the entire roof, which would be stripping it, an undercoating and a final coating, it was in the neighborhood of $80,000. So that's looking at us down the road. When the building was renovated in 2007, that roof was not replaced. It's the only older roof on the entire school. Going to stay concrete again. I think the LED project to change all of our lights to LED lights and the solar energy project will, in the long run, be an amazing thing for the community. If you look at the line item, you see that we spend for electricity, the budget is $43,250 for fiscal 22. A combination of the LED and the solar project would make that number zero. And for a long time, not for a short period of time.
As well as produce energy credits that can be used towards other energy expenses in the town. So
Right.
the school,
So,
Tony's taking the lead on that, deserves a bunch of credit for it, as well as his support from the committee. And with the Green Communities team too, but, the school could be net zero energy in the next couple of years.
all right,
Could
so
be really-
what I just heard is
That'd be great.
that could actually return, that effort could return money to the town.
That's right.
Therefore, it sounds like a no-brainer. I mean, should we not be pursuing that aggressively?
We are.
I signed a letter of intent within the last week as approved by the school committee to move forward. Now, the decision
That's
that,
one of these.
yeah, so the real decision is this. Does the town, through its administrator, want to own the system, which short-term is going to cost money? Or do you want to enter into a PPA, which means there's no upfront cost, which long-term you don't realize the same level of savings? The good thing is that it's a hard decision right now because the interest rates are so low. If the interest rates were 5 or 6% a year, it would be a no-brainer to say PPA. We're not going to invest that kind of money over X number of years. But at 2.5% interest, it's really feasible long-term for the community for the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen to decide to actually purchase the solar array, pay it back over 7 years with the LED. If we do the LED, and the local cost for an LED conversion is about, after incentives, is about $70,000 to $75,000. If the green communities can get some money and drop that number down, we could actually pay some of the cost of repaying the loan with the electric savings from LED. So it's kind of a nice puzzle to try to put together.
And that LED project would be townwide, interior lighting in all public buildings.
But it sounds as if this is something that should be seriously, I agree, Bob, no brainer. I mean, this is something that will bring in money to the town. I mean, this is FinCon.
If those solar units are purchased, which I think, as Tony was alluding to, when I first learned about this solar project, I leaned toward the latter option of kind of leasing the equipment from the company. It just seemed like a safer move. But the more I learned about it and the benefits to the town in the long run seemed to favor purchase if the interest rates really are low. And so I would humbly put my 2 cents in about that as that's considered by the town.
Lauren, that's great. Lauren, and is this something that, Lauren, I hear what I hear you saying is that the board is totally on board. That this
Yes, we are, absolutely. We all voted unanimously. And, I would like to add just, the school committee, we see ourselves, at least I can speak for myself and I believe all members, we see ourselves as, serving the school and the school department, but also always the town. So, when we work with Mr. Parentazzi and we think about various initiatives, we're always thinking big picture. We're Nahant citizens, we're thinking about benefiting everyone. And so, that's certainly something that we've been really thinking about lately with these projects like the LED and the solar.
And it's also something that's a curriculum theme.
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole
That's
school,
right.
The whole school then is engaged in this is how can we brainstorm and how can we do this as a project together? The kids, it's a learn, win.
And our principal, Mr. Andrews, has been actually wonderful. He's always doing a lot of place-based learning and making sure that the environment around the students, contributes to their curriculum and their learning. So he is certainly excited about that and would be really happy to incorporate that into science and what the kids are learning, for sure.
We're limited somewhat on how aggressive we can be because there are net metering caps controlled by the legislature in each utilities district, which are full right now. So there's legislation pending to increase the caps. That letter of intent puts us in the queue. So, and that impacts the finances of the whole equation. So we are somewhat dependent on action at the legislature too.
Yeah, the letter of intent, again, through the co-chairs, the two chairs rather, the letter of intent enables the consulting company to begin doing the engineering study. Again, at no cost to the taxpayers. So we are moving forward. I'd like to shift from the hard to the soft. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Tony, two things. I'm just curious if John would weigh in on this. I know, I'm not sure you're the liaison with the school this year, but certainly you've been very active in the prior year. That's question one. And question two, what action do you need from the town and specifically from town meeting, if any, to make this happen?
That's,
I guess
I'm
if we're
sorry,
just,
Bob,
if
is that to me or Tony B?
Well, Tony P and Tony B.
Well,
And
I
John
defer
F. too.
to Tony B.
I guess it depends. If we choose to go the purchase route, which, we're all strongly considering, we may need a borrowing article. But we're still working out those fine details, and we have time to include that into our warrant. As Tony said, there's the numbers may work out where there's the timing of the LED project, that the debt payment on that borrowing, first of all, doesn't have to be included into FY22, but then further down the road, we may actually be able to use, money that we currently earmark for electricity expenses and shift it over to debt. So we're in, you may see an article in the next month.
I hope so.
And Bob, to your first point, yes, I still am happily and proudly consider myself a liaison between the finance committee and the school, and Barbara has kindly offered to join me in that role.
Wonderful.
So
So,
feel free to.
Mr. Chair, if I can shift from hard to soft, to curriculum, to students. The recent studies that have been done internationally and nationally show that students are keeping their reading skills high during the COVID-19 for obvious reasons. Reading is a solitary activity and can be done in isolation. But the other, I think my wish list would include reinvigorating the arts, athletics, music, and hands-on STEM activities, which our students have sorely missed over the last year. I mean, we had one of the most active STEM schools for, in our grades around. We had partnerships with the Coast Guard. We had partnerships with the community conservation group, with the garden club. We had all kinds of things happening here. And that's all kind of imploded into students being at home, being isolated. I think when we come out of this, we need to explode and blossom into a rigorous restatement of our support of performing, students performing, clubs, contests, all the things they've missed for a year. That's my wish list, really.
Thanks for that, Tony. This is Dana Sheehan. I just wanted to get in with a question, and since we're in question time about the budget. So you mentioned the spending for health and pandemic spending. How are we tracking that so that we can get that reimbursed and, fully loaded up with all of our expenses included? We talked about the school nurse and the public health nurse in the town and make sure that gets all reimbursed from the, any grants or relief spending. Are we trying-
Thank you for that question. And perhaps I'll begin and perhaps Tony B would like to follow, or maybe even the town accountant. We have separate accounting of all of the, I guess I'm going to put it into two categories. The things that we know are reimbursable, and then that is all coded for COVID-19. And then the things that may be. And it's, and we keep careful track of them. As a matter of fact, today I had a meeting with my administrative assistant for financial affairs, and we were reviewing this. So for example, we are offsetting some of the school nurses' salary into the COVID-19 reimbursement column because the individual spends time at that. We have to keep it reasonable. Obviously, I can't, take 90% of her salary and say, it's COVID-19. That's unreasonable. So we have careful sub books of each of the expenditures.
Does
Just
it have
add
your own
on,
accountant? Does the school system have its own accountant?
Through the two chairs, no. We have the superintendent. First of all, I only work 2 days a week, the equivalent of a 0.4. And I serve as all of the administration that you have ever seen in a school district is me. So I am the business official, I'm the transportation director, I'm the contract manager, I am the food service director, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have a full-time principal who does the day-to-day operations and the curriculum, hands-on curriculum, which is putting our money as close to the students as possible, which is really a good idea. And then we have two administrative assistants. One works with the principal on the day-to-day operations of the school, and one works with me on the financial aspects. So that is a clerical level staff person.
Okay, I mean, cutting your checks and, is that you, Allison? Do
Yes.
you do it for the school?
Yes.
All of the school's expenditures come through the town accounting office. But
Okay.
as Tony P was saying, his administrative assistant gathers all of that information and passes it along to my office for processing.
But you must have sub-accounts then to control all of the cash going in and out
Yep,
for the school
Yep.
system.
correct.
Is the school like a separate customer for water and sewer also? Or are they like a department? So it's just a town department.
I can answer that. Because of the previously described net school spending requirement, every year the town accountant goes through a complex mathematical exercise of determining how much of X, and I'm going to say example is water, the school is using, and then that goes into a calculation of, and our auditors review that. That would include the DPW. That would
It's an
include,
intra-company type of entry.
pardon?
It's an intra-company entry, not really a cut a check. type of
That's
scenario.
correct. There's no exchange of money except that when we file our end of the year report, the school district has all of that on its side. So for example, a certain percentage of Tony B's time is charged against the school,
I
a
got it.
very tiny amount, by the way. As compared to the town accountant who's
Yeah.
has a larger piece.
I got it.
And there was something I wanted to say, but it just flew right out of my head.
But
Uh,
any other grants, separate grants that the school gets, we have a separate account set up in our accounting software that accounts for the revenues that come in and the expenses against that.
I got it.
So
I
Al,
re-
this is
I re-
Dana. Can I ask a question about that too? Can we get a list of all the other funding sources and the grants? And as we evaluate the whole budget to see how everything fits together?
Certainly. The town accountant already has it. I believe she can
Yep.
just, I do know what I wanted to say. It took me a minute to remember, but a feature of age, the difference between our expenditures and every other department. So for example, I'll give you a concrete example. I signed an invoice approval today for work that's going to be done to the emergency generator out back.
Got it.
The school committee must approve that expenditure before I can send it to town hall.
So they're like your board of selectmen.
That's,
Okay, I see the organization structure.
in the organizational
I'm thick,
structure.
but I
Yes,
get it eventually.
yes.
Yeah, hey, Jeff, this is John. So if you went back into either like last year's annual meeting book or any other previous one, there's an appendix that's entitled School Share of Town Expenses, and that's called what schedule, what is that called? A schedule 19?
19.
Yeah, schedule 19. So that is in the book. So that's one place you could, I'll give you more information, but that's one place you can find it.
Right.
And there's also an appendix that details, at least in the past, the grant information. So
I was gonna say, so
Yeah.
Allison provided me with a sources and uses statement. I'm assuming that some of the sources were school sources.
for the grants.
For the
Is that
grants,
what you're
yeah.
saying? Yeah, I think that
Well, the
is a
sources and funds, uses of funds type of statement in the back of your budget.
right.
Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, I would like to open up a conversation about the percentage of town expenditures that the school district comes across on Schedule 19. Every year, the accounting department of your town spends an enormous amount of time developing those numbers. And as we have already agreed, it's actually an interdepartmental or an intertown developed percentage. There's no money that changes hands. Like, I don't give the DPW any of our budget. It's just a percentage of their time that's spent on our school district.
Right.
In other places that I have been, the town administrator, the board of selectmen, the board of aldermen, the city council, the finance committee have agreed to not require the town accountant to go through these multiple and time-consuming mathematical computations. They have figured out a way to make it simpler. An example would be you take the last 5-year averages for every column and you just carry it forward to the next year. Now, there are some computations that are absolutely required. For example, the percentage of medical insurance cost. You got to do that every year. The percentage of retirement cost. I mean, they're real numbers. You know, that's actually an expenditure. But for the accounting office of the town to spend hours to figure out how much DPW percentage should be in our column and how much is in the town column, that, to me, that sounds like the department would spend a huge amount of time deciding how much time the DPW spent on raking versus cutting the lawn. I'm not sure if it's valuable. Now, it's not my decision, but I have spoken to the previous town accountant about this, and we were interested in it. It clearly is not in the realm of authority or responsibility of the school committee or the superintendent of schools. But I wanted to point that out this evening because we're talking about a whole bunch of things. That would certainly take a very large task off the plate of your new town accountant, if it's possible. I mean, you may decide that it's not, but it's a concept I believe worthy of thinking about.
Thank you. I'm in a mode of what I call discovery.
Yeah.
I like asking questions, and it's just all goes into a big hodgepodge, and I haven't figured it out yet, but someday it'll all join together and go, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting there.
You're
But Tony,
closer than you
makes
think.
sense, right? So what you say makes sense, and I'm sure that Allison will take a look and see how, as she gets her hands in and sees, what efficiencies we can have, because any efficiencies, and then it may be helpful that when we get the new accounting software, that might support all kinds of efficiency. In fact, we certainly hope it supports all kinds of efficiencies.
I'm a huge proponent of KISS management.
Yep.
There you go. I was about to say, one of the questions we often ask is, what decision would I make based on knowing that information? And right now I'm kind of hard pressed to figure out what business decision I might make knowing how much of the DPW budget goes.
Nothing.
But
Yeah,
then
I do want to say in my previous experience in the other community where I was, we just did a straight percentage calculation. It was fairly straightforward. I've never seen the kind of iteration that the town has gone through.
Yeah, and just to make sure we have a clear understanding of what it will take, somewhere down the road, I've been here since 2016 and I haven't seen it yet, but somewhere way in the past, the Board of Selectmen and the school committee agreed on these percentages. And they actually, somewhere in the world, there's a document that they both agreed to, that it would be this percent for the DPW and this percent for the town administrator and this percent for the town administrator's administrative assistant. But as I said, wherever that document is, I've just heard rumors of its existence.
But I think this is really a Tony B. Tony B and Tony P sound way too much alike too, but Tony B and Allison and Tony P question, not necessarily a finance committee question.
Yeah.
Agreed, except for the fact that, we've agreed for the new software and we want to make certain that gets used to promote those efficiencies. And here's a question, has nothing to do with school. And Tony B, if you can answer it some other time, just it's in my head and I'm afraid I'm going to forget it. Where are we with the lights for the town? We were doing outside lights, or are they all done?
They're all done. It's all converted. We just finalized that grant, so now we're eligible for a competitive grant, which we'll be applying for to use for the interior project.
And I love my
There's
street
definitely a light outside of our bedroom window.
Talk about the tilting, but so when do we start to realize that savings?
I think I'd have to double check if the final numbers work perfectly in with the original projection, but we were looking at a 3-month payback on that investment. So we should be starting to see as soon as this upcoming fiscal year. I think we reduced some of our street lighting line item. We reduced it a little bit, but we didn't fully reduce it because we haven't had a full year of costs. That'll come with next year's cycle.
Okay, thank you. I know it has nothing to do with the school, but I thought, boy, if I don't ask, I'm gonna forget again. Thank you.
I just thought of a school related question. So Tony, can you remind us where we are with respect to the contract with Swampscott? Is that renewed or where? And maybe give the rest of the committee who are new to the dynamics how that had worked in the past and how we're doing it now.
Probably
Certainly,
throw transportation into the mix as well.
through the two chairs. The 7th through 12th grade students who reside in Nahant are educated in Swampscott. We are in the 4th year of a 5-year contract for that service. All the general education students are transported by the Healy Bus Company to Swampscott Middle School or high school where they're educated. When I arrived, there was a per student cost. And so on October 1st of year 1, the cost that would be, the amount of money that would be sent to Swampscott from Nahant in year 2 was solidified. When I negotiated the current contract, I talked to the then town manager, town administrator here in Nahant, and the finance committee chair, and it was determined that a better methodology would be to have a fixed amount of money for 5 years, so that the town of Swampscott would know how many dollars they would have for educating our students, and the town of Nahant and the school committee would know how much it's going to cost. So for example, the $60,000 increase that I gave you in this year, in the fiscal 22 budget for the Swampscott contract, that's a real number. Under the old system, that would be an estimate. So what was happening is there were years where Swampscott was getting a couple $100,000 less than they thought they were getting. For them, that was a problem of a little bit of magnitude. The real problem was when, because our budget is so small, if we had a year where the number grew from 120 students to 135 students, and we had to give them $150,000 to $250,000 of money on top of what we gave them in the previous year. So right now we are in the midst of negotiating the successor agreement. But once again, it's not for next year. It would start the following July, which would be 2022. And it would be a 5-year contract from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2027. And we are negotiating.
Hey, Tony, I have a question about that contract. You mentioned that it's a fixed contract for 5 years. So how was a $60,000 increase implemented in the fixed contract?
It was negotiated. We started out at a very low level compared to the average cost of a student in Swampscott. So in the previous contract, we negotiated a catch-up percentage. So the percentage increase in each year went from, off the top of my head, about 3% to 4%, and it grew. We now have caught up, and we are looking at a much more COLA-like percentage per year of in the neighborhood of 2 to 3%.
That's what we're currently negotiating.
And is there any negotiation going on with other towns besides Swampscott?
No.
Because a town like Marblehead, for example, has a better high school than Swampscott.
Say that again?
That in some measures, Marblehead has a better high school than Swampscott. And, you know, if we're looking at increases going down the line, is there other alternatives out there being considered?
We have, my understanding is that the community wishes to continue its relationship with Swampscott, where we have had a long and storied relationship with them. It's the closest school district other than Lynn. And it has, it's a blue ribbon high school. So on some measures, I would imagine any high school is better than another high school. But generally speaking, our students do extremely well in both Swampscott Middle School and high school. And they get into the finest colleges and universities in the country. I looked into Marblehead when I negotiated the current contract. There was some interest, not strong interest from that school committee. And the difference that I would suggest that Swampscott has is they have a stable administration and leadership. And in the last 3 years, Marblehead has a complete turnover. Everyone at the central office is new. So frankly, I just know the superintendent to speak to. If the school committee chooses for me to enter that negotiation, I would, but I have not been led to believe that that is, as long as negotiations are going well. Again, I want to tell you, I want to remind you that we have a year and a half now, you know, so we do have some time. And we are trying to reach conclusion. We're hopeful that we can reach conclusion at the next meeting with Swampscott.
Okay, not to get out of my lane too much, but, and I know some of this is school committee business, elected officials, but, you know, just in terms of a financial impact, is there some difference between Marblehead and Swampscott? And I'll just leave it at that, you know, let's put it out there.
I don't know what that means. Can you explain?
Well, when you negotiate between Swampscott, a deal with Swampscott or a deal with another school system that may in fact have, you know, by some measures, better outcomes or maybe less cost. It's something to consider.
Yeah, okay. So what you're saying is make a competitive circumstance?
Yeah, I
No,
mean, yeah, if you're doing a renovation to your house, you do get a couple quotes before you move forward.
I think though, in this case, it's not really up to the finance committee to ask Tony to do that. That's up to the school board.
Again, I'll restate what I just said. I know I don't want to get out of our lane here, but we'd like to see some financial numbers on that.
So as a school committee member, I would just have to say that this kind of a conversation would need to occur with other committee members. I won't speak for the committee. As of right now, you know, our charge from the community has been, you know, to continue our relationship with Swampscott. We don't do that in isolation or without considering other options. And we would always make sure that whatever negotiations we're making with another school district are fair to our community. That's definitely our responsibility. And if ever we felt like things weren't fair or this wasn't in the best interest of our students, then we would certainly consider other options. And other neighboring communities like Marblehead, of course, would be districts that we would ask Mr. Parentazzi to start helping us coordinate with. For right now, we've had successful relationships with Swampscott. As Mr. Parentazzi has said, our children have done well. Our communities are established, in an integrated manner when it comes to our schools. And for the moment, we're moving forward with our negotiations and hoping that things go as planned. And Mr. Parentazzi outlined how negotiations worked out last time to kind of bring our students to what truly ended up being a more fair agreement with Swampscott to bring them to date. And now we're looking at a more level playing field.
Yeah, the last thing I'd like to say about this is the worst thing that is potential for making this a competitive process is a 5-year contract is 5/6 of the time that a student would be in the middle school, high school that we send that student to. So what we don't want to have is a circumstance where a student starts 7th grade in school district 1 and then has to finish their senior year in school district 2. What would happen in that case is, my guess is, students would be very, very unhappy, and I frankly would think rightly so.
Right, we're looking for a long-term commitment and a long-term relationship
That's right.
to ensure stability for our children and families. But of course, to your point, we don't do that in a blind environment. We'd always want to make sure that things are fair, and that's definitely the charge of the superintendent and the school committee as we negotiate with Swampscott.
Thank you, Lauren.
Let there be a moment of silence.
I'm taking this moment of silence as no more questions. Is that about right?
I thought it was a great discussion. I learned a lot. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was going to say thank you very, very much, Tony and Lauren. I new to FinCom, and this was a discussion, as you can tell with my background, I've been eager to hear from you, and very impressed with your thoughtfulness and your wish list plans. We came up with some really good new, the green, but a lot of ideas. Also, I agree with you about the performance of getting people excited, and boy, they are ready. We're ready. The kids are ready.
They sure are.
Yeah.
And we're ready, and we're ready to hear them, see them, and experience it with them.
Yes.
It's really a loss.
So I just want to thank you for the way you've been managing. I will say this, maybe others of you on FinCom may not know this, but having been in education for quite some time, it is not always that you get someone who is as on top of the big picture, including the financial aspects of it and keeping budgets thoughtfully, not just saying, oh, well, there's something extra, so I'm just gonna, but instead thinking, okay, so this is something we can think about future for the whole town. And in a small town, that's really very important. So thank you for doing that, Tony. And thank you, Lauren, and for the board. It's we're all in it together.
Thank you. We're very lucky to have
Absolutely.
Mr. Parentazzi. As you said, he's exceedingly careful and attentive and honest and communicative, and it's really, really wonderful and helpful.
And it's a lot of work.
It sure is. And he referenced working 2 days a week, which is what we compensate him for. Holy moly, this year in particular, but any year, but this past year, thank you for everything, Mr. Parentazzi. I mean, we communicate probably more than 40 hours a week, just the two of us. So yeah, he works hard for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
You're very welcome. I'd like to simply mimic what Bob said. It's a great place to work. This is my 54th year in education.
Wow.
When Bob was talking about 30 years, I was kind of chuckling. My 30th year was like 5 jobs ago.
Before you must have started working when you were like 5 or something.
Yeah, well, not quite, but it's a remarkable community, and one that I can tell you that I have really enjoyed. And the reason I'm still here is because I enjoy it. The school committee that we have representing our school district is made up of truly volunteers who care about kids. And that's always the first thought in their mind. And every school committee member that I've worked with since I came in July of 2016 has been that way. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I hope to be here for a while.
Excellent. Please stay.
Yes. And thank you, Mr. Barletta, and to the FinCom for having us this evening. Thank you for all of your donations of time and support to our town.
Okay.
Thanks to all of you. And I will also, I told Tony, Lauren, and Regina that they were likely to be first on the agenda. So they were very patient when, the chief kind of slipped in there, but well, he's riding off into the sunset. So we let him have
All
first.
right.
So thank you for lingering into this late hour.
I thought,
Thank you.
yeah, I interpreted it as you let the youngster go first.
Old age and treachery or something like that. Anyway, all right. Moving on. Administrative matters. Julie is not with us, so I don't think we have any minutes to approve tonight. The only other thing that I'm aware of is, John, can you and I have a conversation sometime over the next week and talk about what needs to be done just in the physical preparation of the booklet?
Certainly.
And then how we can perhaps involve some of the rest of the committee in that effort. And Tony, I don't think that kind of a conversation violates open meeting laws.
No, I don't think so. You're not, as long as you're not deliberating and it's you don't have more than half, which would constitute quorum. So you're just trying to work out a schedule and move to, set up a plan for getting that book together. That's fine.
Okay, but John, can you just shoot me a couple times that are convenient for you, and I'll pick one. And
sounds good. I'll do that.
Right. And just along those lines, Allison and Kristen worked together today to put together your hard copy binders. So those are available for you at the town hall. Whenever you guys have a moment, stop by. They'll be in Kristen's office, and you can pick up your binder at the town hall.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, then next and last item of business is public forum. Are there any questions or comments?
Can they unmute themselves if they have a question, Bob?
I don't know.
If you click on participants, so it comes up on the right side, you'll have options on the bottom there, Bob.
Yeah,
And
I'm looking, hang on, participant. If I click on invite.
Can you talk if you wanted to? Or Josh?
Yes, I believe I can.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you can unmute yourself. So good. Well, now that you've unmuted yourself, any questions?
Just listening, no questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so no questions or comments from the public, then I think a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Beatty, aye.
Louis, aye.
Vanderslice, aye.
Full Jemai.
Brown eye.
Zohara, aye.
She and I.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Good
Good night.
meeting.
Thank you.
Tony and Tony, both
Yep.
Tony.
Thank you.
Tony squared.
We need one more.
No. Usually it's the Bobs that there's a surplus of.
All right.
All right,
okay.
I'll catch up with you guys later. Thank you.
Take care.